Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating 2020 study, but we're looking at the true psychological cost of distance learning, and more importantly, how we can actually fix it. If you've ever taken an online course or worked remotely, you know exactly what we're talking about here. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the virtual learning paradox. So here is the universal problem of our modern education era. Why is virtual learning so incredibly lonely? We literally have more tools to connect than ever before, right? Yet online students still suffer from immense isolation and distressingly high dropout rates. Institutions are practically falling over themselves to adopt new collaborative tech to transcend geography, but despite all that innovation, students are struggling. They enroll, they log in, and then, well, they emotionally disconnect. The researchers explicitly describe the virtual distance learning experience as feeling nameless and faceless. Wow, that phrase perfectly hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It captures the deep emotional toll it takes. Just imagine trying to navigate a grueling master's degree where your classmates are nothing more than text on a screen or a little gray avatar. It breeds a profound state of loneliness that severely tanks a student's psychological well-being. It turns out, throwing course materials at a screen just isn't enough. We humans absolutely need connection to thrive. To really understand this isolation, the researchers played data detective. They surveyed 359 master's students across 5 different campuses at the Virtual University of Pakistan. The demographic split was pretty balanced, 57% male and 43% female. And this specific university was the perfect testing ground because it was built from the ground up as an e-learning institution for both local and overseas students. These folks literally live and breathe the distance learning experience every single day. Moving right along to Section 2, what exactly is social capital? To figure out how to throw these students a lifeline, the researchers turned to a core concept called social capital. Now, at its heart, this has absolutely nothing to do with money. Instead, it's about the vital time and energy we invest into building our network of human relationships. Think of it like a relational bank account. You make deposits by reaching out, offering help, and engaging in chats. And over time, those deposits build up into a powerful network of trust and reciprocity that you can actually draw upon when things get tough. Sociologist Robert Putnam breaks this down into 2 very distinct types: bridging and bonding. Bridging social capital is all about spanning networks to gather new info. Think of your broader LinkedIn connections or a massive university forum. It's great for getting career tips or discovering a new perspective. Bonding social capital, on the other hand, is your emotional safety net. These are your close, tight-knit emotional ties. It's your family WhatsApp group or that small, trusted study group where you can honestly admit you're struggling without any fear of judgment. Both are totally essential, but they serve very different psychological needs. All right, let's dive into Section 3, the social support mechanism. So how do these theories actually save a struggling online student from the abyss of a nameless university? Well, the study validates what is basically a 3-step lifeline. See, it's not a direct jump from just having context to suddenly feeling great. Instead, step 1, students build that social capital. That unlocks step 2, perceived social support. This perception, the very real feeling that someone actually has your back, values you, and will help you if you ask, is the exact mechanism that ultimately rescues their psychological well-being in step 3. It's that feeling of belonging that truly does the heavy lifting. Taking a look at the researchers' actual conceptual framework, you can see how they mapped and tested this exact chain reaction. They proved that this middle step, the perceived support, is the vital bridge. The math literally shows that without that perception of support, the network itself is basically useless. Having 100 connections on paper doesn't translate to well-being unless the student genuinely feels supported by those people. And here is the absolutely crucial point in the data. A staggering 59% of the positive change in a student's psychological well-being is driven entirely by that perceived social support. 59%. That is a massive effect size in the social sciences. What that means is, if we want to improve the mental health and retention of remote learners, over half of our success comes down to ensuring they genuinely feel supported by their virtual community. It's not about how sleek the software interface is, it's all about the human perception of care. Which brings us to a really interesting pivot in Section 4, the social media twist. Now, you might be thinking, hey, the fix is easy. Just encourage students to use more social media, right? If social networks build social capital, then surely logging more hours on Facebook, WhatsApp, or forums is the ultimate cure.
Well, the investigators actually tested this assumption. They wanted to see if a massive quantity of social media consumption acts as a magical multiplier for student well-being. In a massive twist, the data came back with a path coefficient of negative 0.008. Basically, zero. The hypothesis completely and utterly failed. The relationship wasn't just weak, it was statistically non-existent. Simply logging more hours on social platforms did absolutely nothing to boost the feeling of being supported. And this is a total game changer because it shatters the common assumption that screen time automatically equals connection. The study reveals exactly why this is. Passive, mindless scrolling, or using social platforms purely for entertainment, it does absolutely nothing for well-being. The magic only happens when social media is actively used for social and moral support. When students jump onto these channels just for a fun distraction, the benefits completely vanish. But when a student intentionally shows care for a peer, asks for help, or offers some encouragement, that is when isolation is replaced by a real team environment. Intentionality is quite literally everything.
So let's wrap this up with Section 5, Real-World Solutions.
Now that we know the mechanics of this virtual lifeline, how do we actually build it? Passive scrolling won't cut it. The study gives universities, and honestly remote workplaces too, 3 incredibly concrete solutions. First up, launch simple, dedicated apps just for student conversation. Spaces away from academic pressure where they can just belong. Second, have teachers create informal weekly blogs. Just talk casually with students to break down the walls of that faceless institution. And finally, host mandatory face-to-face gatherings at least once a semester. Even just one physical meeting can anchor those virtual relationships, providing enough of that bonding capital to sustain them through months and months of digital-only interaction.
As we bring this explainer to a close, ask yourself this question about the digital spaces you inhabit or maybe even manage. Are you just passively scrolling and consuming? Or are you actively investing your time to offer genuine moral and social support to the people around you? The data is crystal clear here. The absolute only way to survive the isolation of the digital world is to purposefully build human connections within it. So what step are you going to take today to turn a nameless face into a real community?